The Denver Broncos just got a shocking opportunity that could completely reshape their roster in free agency. No one saw this coming. Several unexpected names hit the market, and this could be Sean Payton's biggest moment to lift this team back into serious playoff contention. The moves he makes now could be the difference between another mediocre season and a true Super Bowl run. And the craziest part? A legendary wide receiver is now available, one who could instantly change the face of this offense. I'll tell you all the details in a moment, but first make sure you hit that like button, but only do that if you believe the Denver Broncos are capable of making it to the Super Bowl. If possible, comment something like, "Go Broncos! Let's go to the Super Bowl." Well, let's start by talking about the name on the table, Davante Adams. Yes, you heard that right. Davante Adams is officially a free agent. The New York Jets have decided to move on, and now Adams, who has been one of the league's best wide receivers for nearly a decade, could be signed to a veteran's minimum deal. That's right, a player who has torched defenses for years, a guy who has had historic seasons, could now be donning the orange and blue in 2024. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Adams is past his prime, right? Wrong. Let's look at the numbers. Last season, despite playing with an injured Aaron Rodgers, a hodgepodge of backup quarterbacks, and an inconsistent offense, he still racked up over 1,000 yards and scored 8 touchdowns. That's more than Courtland Sutton did in 2023, and Sutton was widely considered the Broncos' best receiver. So if Adams was still producing at that level under these circumstances, just imagine what he could do in Sean Payton's offense with a fresh start and a new quarterback. And this isn't just some crazy fan theory. Several NFL insiders, including James Palmer, who has deep connections in the Broncos front office, have already identified Denver as a top landing spot for Adams. Even former NFL head coach Mike Sanford called the move a no-brainer for the Broncos. Think about it. Would you rather see Adams stay in the AFC West and join the Chiefs, giving Patrick Mahomes another elite weapon? Or should Denver make the move and pair Adams with Sutton to give the Broncos one of the best wide receiver duos in the conference? Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what this means for the rest of the offense. Signing Adams wouldn't necessarily mean moving on from Sutton. Instead, it would give the Broncos the dangerous combination at wide receiver, something they haven't truly had since the Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders days. And at just 32 years old, Adams still has plenty left in the tank. He's an elite route runner, he's durable, and he's a proven playmaker. But Adams isn't the only name to watch in free agency. The Broncos also have a glaring issue at running back, with Javonte Williams unlikely to return and the team choosing to make Audric Estime a healthy scratch in their biggest game of the season. It's clear Denver isn't satisfied with its current backfield situation. And that brings us to another major name that could be available, Aaron Jones. Jones, a key piece of the Green Bay Packers offense for years, just put together another strong season. He racked up over 1,000 yards last year, proving he's still a dynamic weapon in the backfield. The Broncos haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Philip Lindsay, and with Payton's emphasis on a balanced offense, adding a player like Jones could be exactly what Denver needs. The key factor here is the Vikings. Minnesota has made it clear they want to keep Jones, but their financial situation could force them to move on. If they commit big money to a short-term deal with Sam Darnold, yes, the same Sam Darnold who has bounced around the league and never proven himself as a top-tier quarterback, it could mean they won't have the cap space to retain Jones. And that's where the Broncos could swoop in and make a move. Imagine an offense where Adams and Sutton are on the outside, Jones is in the backfield, and Payton has full control over a team that finally has the weapons to compete at the highest level. That's a real possibility, and it's a scenario Broncos fans should be paying close attention to as free agency unfolds. But wait, there's still more. One of the most overlooked positions on this roster is center, and a massive upgrade could be available in Drew Dalman. The Atlanta Falcons decided not to use the franchise tag on him, meaning he's hitting the open market. According to Pro Football Focus, Dalman is the fourth best center in the NFL. Adding him to a line that already features Quinn Meinerz and Garrett Bowles could turn Denver's offensive line into one of the best in football. And when was the last time we could say that? Think about it. If the Broncos go all in and sign Adams, Jones, and Dalman, this team is instantly in the playoff conversation. These are proven, elite players who fill major needs, and they're all within reach. Now, here's the big question. If you had to choose one of these players, Adams, Jones, Dalman, or even Cooper Kupp, whose name has also been thrown around, who would you want the Broncos to sign? Who do you think would have the biggest impact on the team? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about how Denver can finally get back to being a true contender. And just when you thought the Broncos' free agency possibilities couldn't get any crazier, there's another layer to this unfolding situation, one that could push Denver even closer to contention. Because let's be honest, if Sean Payton is serious about turning this team into a playoff force, he's not just going to settle for small moves. He's going to attack the market aggressively, and that means exploring every possible avenue to bring in top-tier talent. Now, we've already talked about the massive opportunity to land Davante Adams, Aaron Jones, and Drew Dalman. But what if I told you there's still more to the puzzle? What if I told you the Broncos aren't done yet and could be looking at a game-changing move on the defensive side of the ball? Denver's defense has been the backbone of this team for years, but there are still key areas that need improvement, especially at inside linebacker and safety. We saw flashes of brilliance from this unit last season, but we also saw moments where it was clear that upgrades were needed. And now, with free agency opening up, the Broncos have a chance to add even more firepower to their defensive core. One name that has been floating around in NFL circles is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The former Eagles and Lions safety is hitting the market, and he's exactly the type of player who could thrive in Vance Joseph's system. Gardner-Johnson brings versatility, energy, and a playmaking ability that Denver desperately needs in the secondary. The Broncos have already shown they're willing to get creative when it comes to cap space, so don't be surprised if they make a push for a player like him. And what about the linebacker position? With Josie Jewell possibly moving on, Denver has a hole in the middle of its defense that needs to be filled. Inside linebacker isn't always the flashiest position, but it's crucial in a system that relies on stopping the run and covering athletic tight ends in the AFC. The Broncos could target a veteran in free agency or look to the draft to find the perfect complement to Alex Singleton. Speaking of the draft, this entire free agency frenzy could completely change how Denver approaches their picks. If Payton and George Payton pull off these major signings, it would give them flexibility in April's draft to go after the best player available instead of reaching for a specific need. That means they could take a high-upside quarterback, add depth to the offensive line, or even bring in another dynamic defensive playmaker. But let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. If the Broncos sign Davante Adams, Aaron Jones, Drew Dalman, and potentially a defensive difference maker like Gardner-Johnson, what does that mean for 2024? It means expectations will skyrocket. It means that anything less than a deep playoff run would be considered a disappointment. And it means that Sean Payton's vision for this team, one that felt like a long-term project just a year ago, might actually be coming together faster than anyone expected. Broncos country, this is your moment. This is the turning point where we find out if Denver is ready to climb back to the top or if they're going to let these opportunities slip away. So, I'll leave you with this. If you could guarantee just one of these moves, whether it's Adams, Jones, Dalman, or even a defensive star, who would you want the Broncos to lock in first? Let me know in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going. The future of this team could be decided in the next few weeks, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. We, Broncos fans, believe in Sean Payton. He came here to transform this franchise, and now, with the chance to strengthen the team even more, we know he'll make the right moves. With Bo Nix leading the offense, new pieces coming in, and a determined squad, the path is clear. We're climbing back to the top. Broncos country, get ready, we're going to the Super Bowl.